We are now going to learn how to manage, add, and edit student learning objectives. To begin, simply find the Student Learning Objectives button on the home page and click on it. This button will open the Student Learning Objectives list screen. In some cases, you will have existing student learning objectives already in the system, and those will show in your list. In many cases, though, that will be blank to begin with, and you will need to create your first student learning objective. To create your first student learning objective, simply click on the Insert button at the top of the screen. Once you do this, the system will begin building the student learning objective, and it will show on the screen, and you can begin entering information into your student learning objective. At the top of the screen, there are navigation buttons that allow you to go to different sections of the SLO. So for example, if I wanted to go right down to the Standards section, I click on the Standards button, and the screen will navigate down to the Standards section. I could click on the Student Group, and it will bring me down there, and I can click on the General button to bring me back to the top. Other navigation tools are the Expand All and Collapse All tools. The SLO is broken into various sections, as we showed previously, and I can collapse them all and see them all on the screen. Then I can go to the particular section I want, click the plus button, and I can show just that section on the screen if I choose. Then I can click on the minus button to minimize it again. If I want, I can expand all, and it'll show them all. And it's just one large page that you can scroll down through to get to any section. Or again, I can use the different navigation buttons. There's also a print button, which will print your SLO once you've entered it. An Excel button, which you can send it to an Excel spreadsheet. And then a status button that allows you to manage your SLO and submit it for approval. And then later on, when the SLO is totally complete, when all the students' final scores are in, you can also change the status to say it's totally completed. The active-inactive button typically is not used. You typically leave the button as active. If an SLO is deleted, it becomes inactive. If you accidentally delete an SLO, your administrator can help you reactivate it, so contact them. If you're done with the SLO, you can click on the Close button. Notice as I start typing a title of my SLO that the Save and Close buttons became available. When those buttons are available, you need to click on those in order to save the changes you've made most recently. Many things you do in the SLO will automatically save, but the text boxes that you type into will not automatically save, so those you will need to click the Save button for. Notice how many of the fields are pre-filled for you. Your district, the campus you work on, and your name and the current academic year will all be pre-populated into this SLO for you. You can then simply select some of the other information, and for the grade levels you can click on the grade level, or if you have multiple grade levels that this SLO applies to, you can click on multiples. Or if you accidentally click one, you can click it again and it'll deselect the particular grade level. In the course drop-down, you may not have any courses depending on how your district has set up the system. If you have a course, you will simply select upon it. If there are no courses in the system for you, simply leave it as any. In the Student Learning Objectives section, you will type the text of your student learning objectives. There's additional guidance in the SLO guidebook, which can be found up in the navigation bar. that will provide more details on specifically what to write into many of the fields in this document. As I scroll down, we'll talk about some of the tools in the SLO. In their standards area, there's a standard text typing box where I can just type in but ideally, you're able to go out and find your content area and grade level standards. You can narrow them down and you can drag and drop them into your SLO. Or you can simply double click on them and it'll send it over into the Use Standards box. Only the standards in this area are the ones connected to your SLO. These standards on the right are not connected to your SLO yet. Next, we get down to the assessment area, where you will select the type of pre-instruction assessment, the source of the pre-instruction assessment, which could be district-created, teacher-created, or other. If you select other, you must explain in the name explanation box. You do the same for the post-instruction assessment. Next is the interval of instruction in the student group. The interval of instruction can be selected from the list. If your interval of instruction is not in the list, make sure you select Other and then explain your interval in the interval box. We have targeted student population that you can select from and provide details under the population description. Next, we have to select the specific students for the SLO. In this case, it's very similar to what we did with standards. We have an area where we can find the students based on the courses of instruction. So for example, I can pick Mathematics grade 4. I can pick a particular class. I can narrow down by grade level. And then once I've narrowed down the list, I can double click on a student and they will show over in my students list. So the students on the left are the students that are included in the SLO. The list on the right are available students. If I've selected an entire class, I can simply take the All Students, double click on that, and it'll add all those in the list. Or I could have dragged and dropped the All Students over, depending on your preference. You can search for specific students using this name/UID box, and it'll narrow down and find particular students with that name. In some cases, the students you need are not in the list. Typically, your system will be updated frequently to ensure new students to the district are added so they show in your list. If students do not show, we can always add them by clicking on the Create Student button. We recommend against doing this unless your district instructs you to use that button. The reason being is eventually that student should show in the system, and then we may have duplicates of that student in the system. If you are instructed to use this button, you simply click on the plus button, enter the student information, and then the system will automatically create a unique identifier unless you're instructed to type something in specifically here. If I click Save, it says this student already appears. Do you want to use the existing student or do you want to create a new one? So this means we just didn't find them in the filter for some reason. So in this case, I would highly recommend using the existing student. And it has added that student to my list. When you're ready to enter pre-instruction scores, you simply click in the box, enter the score, click the return or enter key to save that. Notice how the target of growth is automatically set for that student. You can go to the next student, enter their pre-instruction score, and it automatically sets all the targets again. Then later in the year, when the post-instruction score is ready, you can simply type that in, and it'll determine what level the student earned based on the SLO rating scale that's shown below. Your overall average on this SLO will also be shown on this screen. Down below this, you will find an approval rubric. Typically, the approval rubric will be hidden, and you can expand it if you want to see it. At this point, nothing's been filled out. Teachers do not have access to edit this rubric, but administrators do. So an administrator can edit the rubric and then provide feedback to you on which components of your SLO are meeting the acceptable criteria and which ones need revision before they can give it an approval. Down below, you'll find an SLO notes section. This section can be used to place comments about the SLO, seek guidance from your administrator on use of this tool within your district. If you are to use it, you simply type your comment here, click the Add Comment button, and then if you want that comment to show on your summary score report, you can click on that Show on Summary Score Report button. Next, we have an Attachments tool. In this Attachments tool, I can click on Upload File, go out and find a file to link to my SLO. Again, seek guidance from your district administration on using this tool. And finally, we have a Changes Audit section. This is not editable by you. It simply shows all the changes in the approval status of the SLO and the changes to the approval rubric. Once you are done, you can save and close. If the Save or Save and Close buttons are not there, that means you have saved everything. So once you save everything, the Save and Close buttons disappear because there's nothing to save at this point in time. So then you can simply click on the Close button. Once you close it, your SLO screen that lists all of your SLOs will show, and you can go back and edit the SLO by clicking on the Edit button. You could copy your SLO by clicking the Copy button, or print your SLO using the Print button on this screen. And that's everything you need to know about entering student learning objectives in our system.